When you first hear about Okigbo?
As I said, or I shouldn't say as I said, I first heard about Christopher Okigbo as a child. I grew up in the University of Ibadan campus, and the intellectuals of the day were, well, his contemporaries. So I guess he was the one that had been lost before, and he was this mysterious figure and this great artist. And so I knew about him, but I started really reading his work in 2004 when I started to research for this project. That's when I started to read the poems. And they really infected me. It was like his work his stories, his poetry is so musical and so symbolic and so powerful. You get sort of entranced almost by it.
So why were you the beginning of all the poets we've had?
Because I put myself at the disposal of the world in a way as an artist, and I'm looking for people who need something said about something, or somebody needs a film made about something, and they come to me. That's the way it's happened. I've written scripts about ideas and stories that have interested me, and they've never come to fruition, but everything that's actually come to fruition has always been because somebody wanted it, somebody else wanted it. And that's how it was with this story too. This producer from Brussels saw a film of mine in New York, and he asked me, wouldn't you like to make a film about Christopher Okigbo?
How long did the project take?
It's still ongoing. I wouldn't say the film is finished. I would just say it's ongoing. It's like a conversation, an open conversation. That's why I don't have any titles at the end, because I feel like it's not finished. There's still things. I've done interviews with Dennis Brutus and with Ali Missouri. I haven't put them in yet. They're still there waiting to be added, So it's just a question of time. As I said before, during the screening, after the screening when we had the Q&A, I didn't have funding to make this film, so every time I do anything, it's because I have time or I have money to buy a plane ticket or rent a camera and go and see someone and talk to them, or spend 2 weeks in the editing room. It's just all self-made.
For some reason, man, you focused in your career on people, personages. The policeman, Alabama, and Okigbo.
Yeah.
What is it about people that's so interesting to you?
I like, even before I became a filmmaker, I used to like drawing a lot and painting, and I liked making portraits. I like to paint faces, so I suppose it's just an extension of that, like a fascination with individuals, but in the societal context in which they find themselves and the kind of difficulties they encounter dealing with their environment. And so it's an opportunity to talk about history and politics and culture and identity and everything that interests me by just following the story, the narrative being somebody's life. But there's so many ways to tell a life story, and a poet's life story as well. The film about the policeman, he was also a poet. He was in prison for 10 years, the first black policeman, ended up in prison in Germany, and the first thing he gave me was his poetry, a big book of poetry like this, and he's an amazing poet. And I see the connection between poetry and film, because it's all about editing down a long story into potent, short lines. So I like the connection between poetry and film better actually than the connection between the novel and film, which is narrative based, but somehow you have to make you have to condense the story into some very poignant and powerful moments. So that's what film also does.
You think about painting and stuff. What prepared you for it? I mean, did you study film or directing, or how did you get to this?
Yeah, I first studied politics because I wanted to be politically active, and then I studied film in Berlin. I studied directing, but I also did camera and I also did sound work. So I'm glad I did all that, because now I have to do it all by myself sometimes when there's no money.
Aside from doing these biographies, kind of, you've done a feature film.
Yes.
When are you doing a Nigerian movie?
Whenever I keep on coming to Nigeria and saying, guys, when are you gonna hire me to do a gig here? But when they need me, they'll ask me. I'm confident.
Nollywood is 20 years.
Yeah.
How do you assess it?
Me and Nollywood are the same age in terms of our careers as filmmakers. We both started in '92. I just found out from Bonn. I went to film school in '92. Nollywood apparently began in '92. So I feel like we're both the same age. We're both developing at the same rate. Me and Nollywood.
I mean, it's funny that people, I mean, turned out for this today. I mean, because of you and Okigbo. You were kind of very popular late '90s, early 2000s, then you just kind of, left Nigeria. We were hearing about you for a while. What were you doing in other period?
Well, I've been coming back and forth, all the time, and I think on a regular, every 2-3 years, I come up with something new. I'm trying to be quite. Sometimes it takes longer, sometimes it takes 4 years, depending on funding or whatever. But I do try and, touch base on a regular basis. This is my first film about a Nigerian story. I'm so pleased that I had the opportunity to do it. And it's so close to home. There's so many things that people understand about my style of storytelling too, that I know it's because we're Nigerians. And it's weird because I've been making films and showing them all over the world in the German language and stuff. And some of my jokes and some of my way of telling stories, they don't get it. But I'm home and I'm showing this film, and every single thing is understood because I realize this is my cultural. These are my cultural roots in a way, and people get my style of storytelling. I think. I don't know.
Is there
Do you?
Is there a part of the Okigbo story, I mean, that you would have liked to have added to this movie that you haven't, and then you want to go back to now based on what new insights?
I wrote a fictional part, a story. I wrote a story that was published in Chimurenga magazine in 2005, I think, that I would have liked to film. It's not a true story. I made it up, but it's inspired by him, and it has two stories sort of intertwined. There's a mythic story about Palinurus the pilot, which I talked about before, and a character I call Chris, who's on his way home from London, and he stops in Kano because in those days the flights would stop in Kano, refuel, and then go to Lagos. And in Kano, there's an incident that takes place. And I wrote this story, and I would have liked to incorporate it into the film. It's almost like a symbolic thing, because I would like to, because his life is so mysterious, and because everybody has some anecdotal stories to tell about him, I would have liked to just create a really powerful myth around him that is, deliberately a not true incident, but one that could have happened.
So did the story predict this project? Or?
No, I was already thinking about the project. I've been thinking about the project for a long time.
But the title, I mean, seems to have played into the movie. The pilot and then Okigbo is passenger.
Yeah, Okigbo is both the pilot and the passenger.
In the movie,
yes.
But in your fictional piece, is the pilot who's bringing him to Canada?
In the fictional piece, he is also both, because the actor who would play Palinurus would also play Chris. So it's important that you're both, because we're always both. In different situations, one takes over and the other, but we're both. We have the capability to be the pilot and to be the passenger.
The sort of woman you went to interview in Cardiff, how did you track her down? How did you know about her?
I knew her, as a friend,
Okay.
family. But I knew she was friends with him. Why?
No, I'm just asking. And then, I thought waking her up at 2 a.m., that was kind of...
Yeah, I just thought it was a nice anecdote, one of those stories about inspiration and how it gets you and how it's so important to find someone who will listen. And, being an artist, you need not only to speak, you need those who can listen and who can understand. So, I like
So, 4 films in 20 years, what have you done in between time?
Well, I didn't start making films 20 years. I started film school 20 years ago. I've made 9 short films, 4 feature films, and 3 video installations. I do video installations as well, so. And I've got 2 children, and I've been raising my kids, so I'm like, I know in Nigeria, you can't be wasting any time. What have you been doing? I've been working.
So what's next?
I have a couple of things I'm working on.
Thank you.
I believe in Nigeria.